platform with Jim Scott, which is an honor once again. For the first time in a long life, actually deliver a sermon. And that talk struck a response to court with many of you. The subject that day was, should I do this one? So my subject that day was the spiritual energy in the room, which I called angels in the room. But it wasn't the spiritual energy that I got so many comments on. It was the comments I made about enlightenment. So today I want to talk about enlightenment and try to define what it is and why it's important and how we can move to a more enlightened state in our lives. I was talking to this group about enlightenment. This is the classic example of preaching to the choir. This is the most enlightened group I've ever had the pleasure and honor to work with. So I want to ask you, what is your definition of enlightenment? Anybody? Sue? Bruce?
Well, it depends on what age of enlightenment, you want spiritual enlightenment. Let's stick with the simple explanation. You look it up, and it says, to enlighten is to give or receive knowledge.
Very good. To give or receive knowledge. I like that. Sue?
In my humble opinion, I've thought about this. It's not a static state to be achieved. Rather, it's a dynamic process of being open to what is offered to you and to what you know. By example of that, it's okay, I'd like to tell a story.
Sure.
Okay? When I was in the Carolinas to see the eclipse, I had the enlightening experience of meeting an enlightened tarot man who was living on the street. And he was helping his friends, even though he was in recovery for about a year, and he wasn't supposed to be with his friends because that could drive back into that life. But they were all struggling, and he better help them struggle than someone who's been there. So he was helping his friends. Two of them had just died. One of them was in the hospital. One was by suicide. The others were accidental overdoses. And I only found this out because there were street busters in North Carolina. Most of them were street people also, but they were very talented musicians busting on the street. This guy had a sign that said poet on demand. And so he was writing poetry. So I didn't even notice it. My husband noticed it. He said, "You gotta see this guy." He knows that I love poetry and I write poetry. So we went over there, and then as he was beginning to write a poem for me and all that, there was some more things. He kept having me answer the phone. And at one point he apologized and said, "It's my mother." And I said, "Good for you. You should have directed me to talk to your mother." Well, then he interrupted a couple more times, and that's how I began to find out about his likeness and his situation and how terribly depressed he was about what's going on with his friends, and he opened up to me. He also wrote me the most beautiful poem that I've ever seen about Alice, which I won't share because that'll get way too long. But I just wanted to tell you that what enlightened me in that moment, first of all, I thought he was enlightened. Here's a guy who's struggling with all these things, and he's still trying to make a living for himself and help others through his poetry and help his friends despite the challenge, the very big challenge it is to him. So that's how I felt he was enlightened. What enlightened me wasn't all of those things or any of those things, because I know that this is a widespread problem in our youth. I know that there's people out there trying to do things that I'm doing. What enlightened me was that I was able in that moment to help such a huge situation that he was having, and that's someone else with it. And so I found that to be very enlightening.
Obviously, those were spontaneous remarks. I wanted to make sure somebody was going to come up. Now, Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, called Enlightenment the awakening of man to spiritual consciousness, the dawning of the light in the mind. In my talk last year, I called it thinking, acting, and living in a saintly or godlike manner. best definition, switch. So both of them working now? This one working?
Stand closer to the microphone.
Okay. Paul, this small, I would rather just not use the microphone at all. Charles Fillmore called enlightenment the awakening of man to spiritual consciousness. But the best definition I heard came from my favorite spiritual channel, who called enlightenment the compassion of the Creator within. Compassion of the Creator within. What could be more perfectly aligned with the teachings of unity? We understand that the Spirit of God is within every one of us, and we just need to tap into that Spirit, to shine its light in everything we see and everything we do. We need to light up the room, not just on Sunday, but every day of the week. Some good indications that I offered before, that you've reached a high level of enlightenment. At one, you set aside your fears, and you seldom worry about anything. Two, you decline to participate in family or workplace dramas. Three, you no longer take on other people's problems as your own, including those of your adult children, although you still love and support them in finding their own solutions. And four, you treat every person as special, important, and equal, regardless of their social status, education, job position, or ethnicity, and despite their attitudes, beliefs, and behavior. Now, joy is another side of enlightenment that I noted before when I said that although you might still feel blue or overwhelmed now and then, most of the time you feel nothing but pure joy and gratitude for every minute of your life. A few weeks ago, Paul and I attended services at Unity on the River in Amesbury, and the minister, Holder, gave a wonderful lesson on joy. He noted that two of the most enlightened people in the world, the Dalai Lama and Bishop Desmond Tutu, were the most joyful people he had ever seen, despite all the hardships that they had each endured in their lives. As a frequent world traveler, the Dalai Lama is known for his practice of joyfully greeting the housekeeping staff wherever he stays at a hotel or inn, treating them as he would any world leader. Now, just as with everything else in life, there's a wide spectrum of reality between not being enlightened and being fully enlightened. We all fall somewhere in the middle of that. We often struggle, I do, to set aside our anger and our egos when dealing with the aggravating behavior of some other people. It's also clear that there's no relationship between enlightenment and intelligence. The world is full of simple people who are purely enlightened, while some of the most brilliant people in government and corporate offices are dangerously unenlightened. So what characteristics and behaviors should we expect from an enlightened person? Surely the top one would be love. Here in Unity we know God as pure love and only love. If we are shining that light of God from within us, the greatest expression of that love is compassion, caring about and for others. At the other end of the expression, of the spectrum, we find the opposite of love, which is fear. All other attitudes, feelings, and belief arise out of either the expression of love or of fear. And fear has crippling effects on our efforts to be more enlightened. As part of my thought process on enlightenment, I compiled a list of about 36 attitudes and behaviors that would be universally considered to be enlightened, expressions of the Christ Spirit within us. I won't list them all here, but here are some of the key ones. Enlightened people tend to be compassionate, understanding, authentic, serene, respectful, forgiving, grateful, and most of all, joyful. Now, all of these characteristics secretive, deceptive, combative, and morose. These are all negative and universally undesirable characteristics. They represent the energy of darkness. Now, it's easy to think that dark energy is taking over the world because that's what makes news. But if you look again, you'll see that the old dark energy is not moving or accomplishing much of anything. The energy of our planet has changed, and enlightenment is beginning to emerge. It just doesn't make headlines. In his sermon at Amesbury last month, Open Mulder said that the fear and hatred that dominates the news is bubbling to the surface so it can be healed. I thought that was just a wonderful one. Remember that it's not our job to cure the world and all of its ills by ourselves, but it is our job to shine our light into every life that we touch. As each of us does that, we will collectively raise the consciousness of the whole planet. Another way to measure enlightenment comes from psychologist Abraham Maslow. I mentioned him in my talk earlier, describing what he called Sunday Christians, people who left their spirituality on the church steps after the service. Now, Maslow wrote extensively about the psychology of religion, but he was best known as a professor and a business consultant. And his defining work was a theory of psychological health, culminating in what he called self-actualization. Maslow defines self-actualization as, that's a tongue twister, what a man can be, he must be, because he was speaking of man in the generic sense, but still that's good. What a person must be, what a person can be, they must be. And that's a good description of why we should become more enlightened. Here are some of the characteristics that Maslow saw as signs of self-actualization. Acceptance of themselves and others for who they are. The ability to see life situations objectively without excessive emotion. Resistance to trends and fads, but not purposely unconventional. Highly creative and problem-centered rather than self-centered. And having strong moral and ethical standards, democratic attitudes, and concern for the welfare of humanity. And the key characteristic that Maslow defined as common to self-actualized people was frequently having what he called peak experiences. Now, peak experiences are those moments in life when suddenly everything comes together exactly as you would want it to come together, despite all odds to the contrary. Maslow's contemporary, the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, said that events are meaningful coincidences if they occur with no causal relationship, yet seem to be related. And he called that, I heard it, synchronicity. Wayne Dyer called them real magic. I just call it spiritual intervention. These are the moments when Spirit steps in to help us realize our fondest dreams. That could be anything from landing your ideal job, to meeting the perfect partner, to finding a parking spot next to the door during a storm. Now, this is the best reason why we should all be striving to shine our light of compassion, caring, and authenticity into the world around us. The light that we shine reflects back at us like a parabolic mirror, magnifying what we send out and bringing those peak experiences into our lives. My own path is simple and straightforward. I try to watch my thoughts, my words, and my expectations. As some of you have unfortunately seen, I have not always been successful. I admit to being human and too often losing my cool or letting my ego get in the way, but I try to keep my thoughts, words, and expectations positive. When fearful or negative thoughts creep in, I'll face them. Try to figure out why they arose, then deal with them or dismiss them. When I let them linger, I always feel bad afterwards. If they don't carry light, they don't belong in my life. Now you might ask, why bother? We come here on Sunday, we feel the presence of Spirit, we enjoy the wonderful sense of community, back out and deal with all the stuff that life throws at us the rest of the week? Well, my answer is when you carry that effort to shine your light through every minute of the week, life tends to throw less stuff at you. You begin to see the synchronicities, to have the peak experiences, and now and then to enjoy a little miracle. Most of all, when you keep your focus on shining a positive light on everything you say and do, you begin to feel a closer and more constant connection with Spirit, with the Christ Spirit that resides within your heart. And that connection will make every aspect of your life easier and more rewarding. So shine on. And whatever you are doing or whatever you are saying, be the person who lights up the room.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass. And visit us online at www.unityoncapecod.org.